Sam sat in his workshop, the sound of tools clicking against metal filling the small room. He was a human engineer, known for fixing machines that others had already given up on. His hands were steady, his mind calm, and his work was always exact. The frontier colony where he lived depended on him. Ships came to him with broken engines, miners brought him ruined drills, and traders asked him for repairs before heading back into deep space. For Sam, life was quiet, maybe even boring at times, but it was safe. That morning, everything changed. The message came through his old comm panel, its screen flickering with the symbol of the Galactic Empire. Sam frowned. The Empire rarely contacted him directly. Most of the time, requests came from captains or local governors. The Empire itself had bigger matters than dealing with one small engineer on the edge of nowhere. Yet the message was clear, written in the formal tone only the Empire used. Engineer Sam of Outpost Delta. You are to report immediately. Bring standard heavy tools, welding instruments, and energy stabilizers. Delivery to station varies, orbiting the star ruin. Delay not permitted. Sam read it twice. Tools, welding, stabilizers. It sounded simple enough. Maybe something was broken at their outpost, maybe an energy grid needed repair. Still, something felt strange. Why him? The Empire had thousands of engineers under their command. Why send for someone from a small colony? He rubbed his chin and laughed softly. Well, a job is a job, he muttered. Work was work, and credits were credits. He began to pack his gear into sturdy metal cases, carefully checking each tool. Wrench, plasma torch, stabilizer coils, portable energy cells. The list was long, but Sam had everything ready within the hour. As he loaded the cases into his small ship, he felt an unease he could not explain. The Empire always wrapped their words in formality, but this order felt more like a command than a request. He told himself not to overthink it. He was only a man with tools. He fixed what was broken. That was all. When his ship left the colony dock, the stars stretched before him, endless and cold. He set the course toward Ruin, a distant star he had never visited before. His navigation screen blinked with the path, a thin blue line across the void. Sam leaned back in the pilot's chair, hands resting on the worn controls. Hours passed in the silence of space. Sam thought about his life, simple, unnoticed, always in the shadow of larger events. He had heard rumors of wars, rebellions, and alien powers clashing with the Empire. But those were far away, stories told in bars and trading posts. For him, life was small and safe. He fixed engines. He kept ships flying. He stayed out of trouble. Yet now, he was being called directly by the Empire itself. As his ship neared the ruined system, the view outside shifted. The star ruin glowed a dull red, its light weak, its surface trembling with slow death. Around it, a single station floated. Station varies. It was not large, not like the shining hubs closer to the Empire's heart. It looked older, darker, with heavy armor plates and long antennas reaching into space. It did not look like a place where simple repairs were done. Sam felt his unease grow stronger. He checked the order again on his panel. Tools, welding, stabilizers. Nothing more. No details, no explanation. Just silence. Maybe they need a new reactor frame, he whispered, trying to calm himself. But the thought did not convince him. As his ship approached the docking bay, a message came through. Engineer Sam. Permission granted. Dock at Bay 3. Guards will meet you. Guards. For an engineer? That was new. His ship locked onto the docking clamps with a metallic thud. The airlock cycled, and Sam pulled his cases of tools behind him, rolling them on a small grab sled. The doors opened, and 3 armored soldiers stood waiting. Their faces were hidden behind helmets, and their weapons hung ready at their sides. Sam raised a hand in greeting. Engineer Sam reporting. I brought what you asked for. The guards gave no reply. One simply nodded and gestured for him to follow. Their silence made the air heavy. Sam walked behind them, the sound of his grab sled echoing against the metal floor. The corridors of Station Varies were dim, the lights flickering, the walls marked with scratches and burns. It did not look like a normal station. It looked like a place that had seen battles or something worse. Sam's unease turned into a sharp knot in his chest. He had expected a repair job, maybe an energy leak or a broken machine. But the way the guards moved, the silence of the station, and the strange request for tools made him think otherwise. Somewhere deep inside, Sam felt that he had stepped into something far larger than a simple job. Something hidden. Something dangerous. And though he did not know it yet, what waited for him was not a broken machine at all. Sam followed the guards deeper into the station. Their boots struck the floor with steady rhythm, while the soft hum of the grab sled carrying his tools echoed behind him. He tried to look calm, but his eyes kept searching the walls and ceilings. The corridors were not like those of a normal station. The lights were dim, the air felt thick, and patches of rust crawled across the metal panels. It looked like no one had cared for this place in years. The guards said nothing. They did not even look at him. They moved as if they were carrying out a task they had done 100 times before. Sam wanted to ask questions, but their silence warned him against it. He kept his mouth shut and his thoughts to himself. At last, they stopped before a large blast door. The lead guard tapped on a control panel. The door opened with a groan, revealing a wide chamber lit by pale blue lights. Sam stepped inside, pulling the sled with him. The chamber was empty except for a long table and a single officer who stood waiting. The officer's uniform was neat, his face sharp, his eyes narrow as he studied Sam. Engineer Sam, the officer said, his voice cold. You have brought the equipment we requested? Yes, sir, Sam replied, forcing himself to sound steady. Welding instruments, stabilizers, heavy tools, all in working condition. What exactly do you need fixed? The officer did not answer right away. He walked around the table, hands behind his back, as if measuring Sam's worth. At last, he spoke again. You will be escorted to the site. Your tools will be used there. No questions. No delay. Do you understand? Sam nodded. I understand. But inside, his doubts grew stronger. Why would the Empire hide the purpose of his work? Why bring him all the way here, to a forgotten outpost by a dying star? The officer gestured to the guards. Take him. They moved again, this time through thicker doors and longer halls. The walls seemed older here, patched with heavy plating. Warning signs glowed faintly on some panels, showing energy levels unstable, heat rising, systems locked. Sam's instincts as an engineer told him the place was not safe. Finally, they reached another set of blast doors. These ones were different. They were bigger, stronger, lined with glowing locks that pulsed with blue light. It looked less like an entrance and more like a prison gate. Sam's heart beat faster. He did not know what lay beyond, but every step closer filled him with dread. The officer arrived again, walking calmly as the guards opened the gate. "Inside you will find what needs securing," he said. "You will use your tools as instructed. Do not attempt to speak. Do not attempt to stop. The Empire watches." Sam swallowed hard and pushed his sled forward. The doors opened with a heavy hiss, and cold air rushed out. Inside was darkness, broken only by faint streams of blue light running across the floor. The sound of machinery echoed faintly, like breathing from metal lungs. Sam stepped inside, the guards behind him, the officer watching. His eyes adjusted slowly. He expected to see a broken reactor, maybe a large machine, maybe a heavy engine in need of repair. But what he saw was not a machine. In the center of the chamber stood a massive shape, bound by glowing chains of pure energy. At first, Sam thought his eyes were playing tricks. The figure was so large it filled half the chamber, its body curved and coiled. Then the shape moved. A low sound rumbled through the air, not mechanical but alive. The blue lights glowed brighter, and Sam saw silver scales that shimmered like liquid metal. A long tail, sharp wings folded close, a neck rising like a tower. Two eyes opened slowly, glowing like embers in the night. Sam froze. His breath caught in his chest. He had seen creatures across the galaxy, but never anything like this. It was not a machine. It was alive. It was a dragon. The dragon lifted its head weakly, the chains of energy sparking against its body as it tried to move. The sound that escaped its throat was deep and heavy, like thunder trapped in stone. Sam's hands shook as he gripped the handle of the sled. His tools rattled quietly. This was not what he had been told. This was no repair job. This was something hidden, something forbidden. He turned toward the officer, words rising in his throat. This isn't silence," the officer cut him off sharply. His eyes were cold, unblinking. "You will strengthen the chains. That is your task. Nothing more." Sam looked back at the dragon. Its eyes met his, and for a brief moment he felt something. Not fear, not anger, but something else. The eyes were not the eyes of a beast. They were sharp, filled with knowledge, filled with pain. The dragon looked at him as if it knew him. As if it was asking for help. Sam's heart pounded. He wanted to speak, to ask what this was, why it was chained, why the Empire had hidden it here. But the officer's words echoed in his head. Silence. No questions. No delay. The guards stood ready, their weapons glowing faintly. Sam knew if he tried to resist, they would not hesitate. Still, as he stared at the chained dragon, one thought rose inside him. This was no job for an engineer. This was something far greater. Sam stood frozen, his eyes locked on the creature before him. The dragon's scales shimmered under the blue lights, each one reflecting like polished silver. Its wings twitched against the chains, the tips dragging across the floor with a faint scrape. The sound was soft, yet it carried weight, like a reminder that this thing was alive, not a statue or machine. He had never seen anything like it. Dragons were old stories, myths told around campfires, tales to scare or amaze children. Yet here one was, bound in front of him, breathing slow and heavy. Each breath carried heat, rising into the cold air of the chamber. The officer's voice cut through his thoughts. "You will use the stabilizers. The chains must hold. This creature cannot be allowed to break free." Sam turned slightly, his voice uneasy. "It can understand me. The officer's eyes narrowed. Do not test my patience, engineer. Do what you are told. Sam lowered his gaze but did not move right away. He was not sure if the dragon had heard him, but the way its glowing eyes followed his every step made it clear this was no mindless beast. He pushed his sled closer, the tools clattering softly. His hands moved, but his thoughts raced. Why was the Empire keeping something like this here? Why hide it on a forgotten outpost? What did they want from it? The dragon shifted slightly, chains crackling with sparks as it tried to lift its head higher. Its eyes burned brighter, and for a moment Sam felt something strange like a pressure inside his mind. It was not a voice, not words, but a faint touch, like someone knocking on a locked door. He froze, gripping the handle of his plasma torch, unsure of what had just happened. The officer noticed his pause. Continue. Sam nodded, forcing his hands to move. He pretended to study the stabilizer coils, checking their placement, but his attention kept drifting back to the dragon. Its gaze never left him. Then, as the guards shifted positions, Sam heard a sound inside his head. Human. The word was not spoken aloud. It rang inside him, soft yet clear, a deep tone that carried both strength and exhaustion. Sam almost dropped the tool in his hand. He glanced at the guards, but they gave no sign they had heard anything. His breath caught. Did you? He began, but the dragon's eyes flashed, silencing him without sound. The voice came again, quieter. Do not speak. They cannot hear. Sam's heart pounded. The creature was speaking to him, directly into his thoughts. He had heard of rare alien species with telepathic gifts, but nothing like this. He felt torn between fear and awe. Why are you chained? Sam thought, though he did not know if the dragon could hear unspoken questions. The answer came at once, heavy and filled with pain. The Empire fears me. Long ago, I stood against them. They took me, bound me here. They wished to break me, use me as weapon. Sam's hands shook. His mind filled with images that were not his own, worlds burning, fleets scattering, the dragon flying above battlefields with fire streaming from its jaws. He felt the echo of power, but also the weight of sorrow. He nearly stumbled back, but forced himself to stay steady. The guards still watched. The officer still waited. The dragon's voice softened. You carry tools. They wish you to tighten chains. Do not. Every chain you strengthen is another day I remain in prison. Sam's throat was dry. He wanted to answer, to promise, but fear kept his mouth shut. The officer's voice rang out again. Faster, engineer. The chains weaken. Sam bent down, pretending to adjust a stabilizer coil. His mind burned with questions, but one stood above the rest. Why me? Why now? He thought. The dragon's eyes dimmed slightly, its strength fading. Because you listen. Others looked and saw only a beast. You see more. Perhaps you will act. Perhaps you will not. But hope must rest somewhere. Sam felt his chest tighten. He was only a mechanic, a man who fixed engines. He was not a soldier, not a hero. What could he do against the Empire? Against guards with weapons? And yet, as he looked at the dragon's bound wings, at the energy chains sparking against its body, he knew this was wrong. Machines were built to serve. Engines were built to run. But no living being should be forced into chains. The officer stepped closer, suspicion in his gaze. Is there a problem, engineer? Sam shook his head quickly. No problem. Just stabilizing the output. It will hold. The officer's eyes lingered on him, sharp and cold, before turning away. Sam lowered his tools and pretended to work. But inside, his decision was forming, piece by piece, like gears locking into place. He could not look away from the dragon. It had spoken to him. It had asked for help. And no matter how much fear gripped him, Sam knew one truth. He could not walk away and pretend he had seen nothing. He was already part of this now. Sam's hands moved slowly over the glowing stabilizer, but his mind was far from the work. The dragon's words still echoed inside him. The Empire fears me. They want to use me as a weapon. He kept his head down, tools clinking softly, pretending to adjust the locks. Every few seconds he glanced up. The dragon's eyes never left him, glowing faintly in the dim light. The officer finally spoke. You will remain here until the coils are steady. When you are done, guards will escort you back to the docking bay. You will tell no one of what you saw. If you speak, you will not live to regret it. Sam said nothing. He nodded as if obedient, though his stomach churned. He knew the Empire's way: cold, commanding, merciless. If they threatened him, they meant every word. When the officer left the chamber, only 2 guards remained. They stood at the door, silent as statues. Sam pretended to work, but his ears strained for the dragon's voice. At last, the deep tone returned, soft in his mind. You see now. They keep me here, chained, hidden. They feed me only enough to live. They demand obedience, but I will not give it. Sam's breath was shaky. He bent low, pretending to check a panel. Why, he thought. Why would the Empire want to use you? The dragon's eyes dimmed as if the weight of memory pressed down. Because of power. My kind are few, older than their rule. Long ago, when their fleets spread, we stood against them. My fire turned their ships to ash. My wings carried me across their skies. They feared me then, and they fear me still. Now they wish to bend me, to chain me not just in body, but in will. If they succeed, I will not be dragon. I will be tool. Sam's mind filled again with strange images: not his own fleets burning, soldiers fleeing, worlds trembling under the shadow of wings. He shivered. If the Empire could turn such power into a weapon, no one would stand against them. The dragon's voice deepened. They use chains of energy to weaken me. Each day the chains grow tighter. They brought you to strengthen them. You, human, are meant to keep me in prison. Sam clenched his fists. His tools were made to repair, not to imprison. His craft was meant to keep ships alive, not break spirits. I don't want that, he thought. Then do not, the dragon answered. You have a choice. Many who walked this chamber looked and saw only a beast. You see truth. You must decide what kind of man you are. Sam looked at the glowing chains. Sparks crawled across the dragon's body each time it moved, the sound like metal grinding against stone. The sight made his stomach twist. Still, fear gnawed at him. He was one man with a toolbox. The Empire had fleets, armies, weapons. What could he possibly do? As if sensing his doubt, the dragon's tone softened. Even the smallest tool can change the shape of steel. Even the smallest choice can shape the course of time. Sam's thoughts raced. If he helped, the guards would kill him. If he refused, the dragon would remain in chains, and the Empire would continue its plans. Both paths were dangerous. Both paths were heavy. The guards shifted slightly. One spoke for the first time. "Engineer. Report." Sam straightened quickly. "Stabilizers holding. Energy balanced." He forced his voice steady, though his hands trembled. The guard nodded and said no more. Sam turned back to his work, but inside, a fire had begun to burn. He remembered his life on the colony, quiet days, small repairs, safe and hidden. He had been content. But now he had seen something no human should ignore. The Empire was not repairing. The Empire was chaining. And if they chained one dragon, who knew what else they had done, what else they would do? The dragon's voice reached him again, softer, weaker. "Human, I do not ask you to fight. I ask you to see. Once you see, you cannot return to blindness." Sam tightened his grip on his tool, his mind swirling. The choice was becoming clear, even if it terrified him. He glanced once more at the dragon's eyes. They glowed not with rage, not with wild hunger, but with calm intelligence. With hope. That hope was now placed on him. Sam lowered his tool, hiding his movements from the guards. He adjusted the stabilizer just enough to make it appear he was working, but inside he left a fault. A small flaw, hidden deep. The kind of flaw only an engineer would notice. It was not enough to free the dragon now. But one day, if the moment came, those chains would fail. The dragon's eyes narrowed slightly, as if it understood. A faint warmth brushed Sam's thoughts, not words but gratitude. Sam took a slow breath. He had crossed a line. He was no longer only an engineer for hire. He had seen the truth. He had chosen a side, even if quietly. And he knew, from this moment on, his life would never again be simple. Sam returned to his small quarters on the station, but his thoughts did not rest. The image of the chained dragon burned in his mind, its glowing eyes filled with both pain and wisdom. He lay on the hard bunk, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the outpost's engines. Sleep would not come. Every part of him told him to leave. He could finish his task, return to his ship, and fly back to the colony. If he stayed quiet, no one would ever know what he had seen. Life could go back to repairs and quiet work. Safe, small, simple. But the dragon's voice still echoed inside his head. "Once you see, you cannot return to blindness." Sam sat up, running a hand through his hair. He knew the Empire was powerful. He knew one man could not stand against fleets and armies. Yet he also knew what was right. To chain a living being, to strip it of freedom and turn it into a weapon, that was not something he could walk away from. A soft knock at his mind startled him. The dragon's presence returned, faint but steady. "You think of leaving," the deep voice said. Sam whispered into the darkness, though no one was there. "If I stay, I'll die. They'll kill me before I even try." The dragon's reply came slow. "Every path has danger. But if you run, danger will follow you still. The Empire leaves no witness. They will not allow you to return free." Sam's stomach turned. He had not thought of that. The Empire might not let him go back at all. He had seen too much. His hands curled into fists. "So I have no choice," he thought bitterly. "You do," the dragon answered. "You can choose to act. Choice is all that remains when fear takes everything else." Sam stood and began pacing the small room. His mind raced through possibilities. He was only one man with a toolbox. But he had skills, and skills could be weapons if used wisely. He thought about the station. Its lights flickered, its systems were old, its walls patched again and again. It was not strong. If the power failed, if the systems collapsed, the chains might weaken. Sam whispered, "If I could cut the energy, maybe you could break free." The dragon's presence flared slightly in his mind, as if in approval. Yes. The chains feed on power. Without it, they weaken. But the outpost must fall dark for more than a moment. Can you do this? Sam hesitated. He was an engineer, not a soldier. He had never fired a weapon in his life. But breaking machines that he could do. Yes, he thought. I can. But I'll need to move carefully. The guards can't know until it's too late. The dragon's voice lowered, almost like a whisper. I will shield you when the time comes. My wings will guard you, my fire will clear your path. But until then, you must walk alone. Sam nodded slowly. The plan was dangerous, maybe impossible, but it was a plan. The next day, he returned to the chamber with the guards. Again, he pretended to work on the stabilizers. He adjusted coils, checked panels, and scribbled false notes on a data pad. All the while, he studied the room where the power conduits ran, where the guards stood, where the locks glowed brightest. He traced each cable with his eyes, memorizing every line. The guards watched, but they did not understand machines the way he did. To them, it was wires and lights. To him, it was a map of weakness. That night, back in his quarters, he drew a rough plan on scraps of old paper. He marked the power cores, the backup relays, the emergency lights. If he cut them all at once, the station would plunge into darkness. It would be chaos. In that chaos, the dragon might break free. But there was one more problem: his ship. Even if the dragon escaped the chains, they would still be trapped inside the outpost unless they reached open space. Sam would need to get back to his ship, keep it ready, and guide the dragon out. His chest tightened at the thought. Flying with a dragon beside him, fighting through an Empire outpost, it sounded like madness. Yet the more he thought, the clearer it became. This was the only way. The dragon spoke again in his mind, soft but certain. Fear is natural. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act while fear remains. Sam closed his eyes, taking a slow breath. Then I'll act, he thought. I'll do it. He knew he had crossed the line fully now. There was no turning back. If he failed, he would die here. If he succeeded, he would carry the Empire's wrath on his back forever. But he could not ignore the dragon's chained wings, its ancient eyes, its plea for freedom. Sam opened his eyes and stared at the rough plan in front of him. His decision was made. The dragon would not remain in chains. Not if he had anything to say about it. Sam moved quietly through the dim corridors of Station Varys, his heart pounding in his chest. The plan he had made over the past days was simple in theory, yet full of danger. He carried only his tools and the knowledge of the station's weaknesses. Every step had to be perfect. One mistake, one misstep, and the Empire would catch him. The guards patrolled as usual, their boots echoing off the metal floor. Sam timed his movements carefully, slipping from shadow to shadow, avoiding the security cameras, and keeping close to the walls. His eyes scanned the ceiling panels, noting vents and conduits he could use if necessary. At last, he reached the chamber where the dragon remained chained. The creature's silver scales shimmered in the faint light, its great head lowering as Sam approached. He could feel the raw strength coiled within it, even in restraint. Its eyes met his, and for a moment, the two shared a silent understanding. "Are you ready?" Sam thought, his voice trembling slightly in his mind. The dragon's reply came almost like a whisper, "Yes. Now or never." Sam bent to work on the power conduits feeding the chains. His hands moved with practiced precision, cutting wires and loosening connections. Sparks flew quietly, controlled, enough to weaken the energy field without drawing attention. The chains hummed and pulsed, glowing slightly dimmer with each adjustment. The guards shifted in their patrols, moving closer than Sam liked. He froze, holding his breath, his tools poised. Time slowed as he calculated every movement. One wrong turn, one wrong sound, and they would catch him. The dragon let out a low growl, not of anger but of warning. Sam nodded silently. The moment had come. With a final adjustment, the main power conduit sparked violently, sending a cascade of blue light across the chamber. The energy chains shuddered and then broke with a burst of sound, falling to the floor with a metallic crash. The dragon flexed its wings, the force of freedom shaking the chamber. Its long tail lashed, knocking over equipment, while its wings spread, filling the space with a shadow that made the guards step back. The roar that followed was not just a sound, it was a statement, a challenge to anyone who dared oppose it. Sam ducked as the dragon turned its head, eyes glowing brightly. Its body coiled, ready to leap, ready to fight, ready to escape. The guards raised their weapons, but the dragon moved faster than they expected. Its wings unfolded, creating a gust of wind that pushed them back. With a single sweep of its tail, they were knocked aside, struggling to regain balance. Sam used the chaos to move quickly, dodging fallen cables and sparking panels. He reached the control panel for the station's internal doors. Hands shaking, he opened the emergency exits, guiding the dragon toward the docking bay. The corridors were tight, but the dragon's strength allowed it to bend and twist, coiling around walls and equipment to clear a path. One guard attempted to block their way, but the dragon's roar echoed in the small corridor, a deep vibration that sent him stumbling backward. Sam barely had time to catch himself against the wall, but he pressed forward, shouting for the dragon to move. The creature understood, leaping and twisting through the halls with Sam following close behind. Finally, they reached the docking bay. The ship Sam had arrived in sat ready, engines humming quietly, lights blinking softly. It was small, but it would be enough for now. He activated the lift ramp, opening the bay for the dragon. The dragon hesitated for a moment, wings half unfolded, then leapt onto the deck. Its claws clicked against the metal floor, its wings brushing against the ceiling. Sam climbed aboard just as the guards began to regain their footing, shouting orders that echoed through the station. He started the engines, the ship trembling as power surged. The dragon lowered its head, pressing close to him as if offering protection. Sam guided the ship out of the docking bay, maneuvering quickly to avoid enemy fire. The station alarms blared, red lights flashing violently, but the two were already moving, already escaping. As the station shrank behind them, the dragon's eyes met Sam's. There was a silent gratitude, and perhaps understanding. Sam realized then that he was no longer alone, no longer just an engineer. Together, they were a force neither had been before. The Empire would pursue them, no doubt. Fleets and patrols would come, but for now, they were free. For the first time in centuries, the dragon had freedom, and Sam had chosen a path that would change the galaxy in ways he could not yet imagine. Sam leaned back in his seat, hands gripping the controls. His heart still raced, but a sense of purpose filled him. He had acted when others would have obeyed. He had chosen right over safety. The dragon stretched its massive wings in the cargo hold, the room filling with power and light as its scales caught the starshine outside. Sam looked at it and whispered, though he knew it could hear him without words, "We're going to make it. Together." The dragon's low, rumbling sound seemed like a reply of agreement. Freedom had a new form today. One of scales and fire, and one of human courage. The stars awaited them, vast and endless, and Sam knew that this was only the beginning. Sam guided the ship through the black expanse of space, the dragon beside him, coiled yet calm. The outpost behind them shrank into a speck of red and blue light, alarms still ringing faintly across the void. Sam's heart pounded, but his mind was clear. For the first time, he felt that his actions had meaning. He was no longer just an engineer. He had chosen a side, and now he was responsible for the freedom of an ancient creature. The dragon stretched its wings slowly inside the cargo hold, silver scales catching the light of distant stars. Its glowing eyes met Sam's, and he felt a deep, silent understanding pass between them. This was no ordinary ally. This was a force of nature, a being that had survived centuries of fear and imprisonment. And now, it trusted him. Sam turned toward the ship's navigation controls. The Empire would notice the disappearance of station very soon. Patrol ships would arrive within hours. They had to move fast. Sam plotted a course toward a hidden nebula, a place he had used before on supply runs. Its dense clouds of gas could hide the ship from scanners, giving them time to plan their next move. The dragon lowered its massive head, resting it near Sam's shoulder. Though its body radiated power, there was calmness in this gesture. Sam reached out, brushing a hand along its scales. A faint warmth responded to his touch. He realized that trust was now mutual. "Do you understand me?" he thought, and the dragon's mind touched his in return. "Yes." "We move together." The stars streaked past as they entered the nebula. Sam activated the ship's stealth mode, energy shields humming softly around them. The dragon adjusted its wings to fit inside the cargo hold, coiling carefully. The air felt thick, but safe. Here, for the first time since leaving the station, they could breathe without fear. "Where do we go now?" Sam whispered to himself, unsure if he even wanted an answer. The dragon responded silently, showing images in his mind: planets under Empire control, fleets patrolling, colonies unaware of the hidden chains that enslaved powerful beings. "We must gather strength. Allies. Knowledge. One man and one dragon cannot face the Empire alone." Sam nodded. The idea was logical, yet daunting. The Empire had soldiers, fleets, and weapons far beyond anything he had ever seen. But the dragon had power. Ancient power. Together, they could become more than a single threat. They could become a symbol of hope. They emerged from the nebula into open space, free for now but not safe. Sam adjusted the ship's engines, pushing them to maximum speed. Behind them, the first patrol ships blinked onto scanners. The Empire would not let the loss of a dragon go unanswered. The dragon's wings unfurled slightly, even inside the ship, and a low rumble resonated through the hull. It was not aggression, but warning, a signal to any who might pursue. Sam's hands tightened on the controls. He was not a soldier, not a fighter, but he had the mind of an engineer. And he had courage. "Together," Sam whispered. The dragon lowered its head in agreement. They were a team now, forged in danger, bound by choice and trust. As the patrol ships approached, Sam devised a plan. The dragon could create distractions with its power, enough to scatter the enemy ships, while he maneuvered the vessel through asteroid fields and debris clouds. Speed and precision would be their allies. The first patrol ship fired a warning shot, a beam of energy streaking past the hull. Sam ducked instinctively, but the dragon's tail lashed, smashing a nearby asteroid into the path of the patrol ship. Alarms blared, and sensors flared. The Empire would not have expected a dragon in space, let alone one working with a human. Sam adjusted the course again, weaving through the field, following the dragon's movements. Every strike the dragon made scattered or destroyed enemy threats. Sam's calculations, his knowledge of physics and mechanics, allowed the ship to dodge debris and beams alike. By the time the patrol ships regrouped, Sam and the dragon had vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only confusion and sparks from collision. The Empire would send more, stronger, faster. But they would never anticipate the bond between human and dragon. For the first time, Sam allowed himself a small smile. Fear had not won. Obedience had not won. Choice, courage, and intelligence had triumphed. Together, they had changed the course of events with only their wits and trust. The dragon moved closer, its wings brushing the ceiling, eyes glowing with faint warmth. Sam reached out, feeling the strength and power in its scales. He knew this was only the beginning. They were no longer just escaping. They were planning, preparing, and becoming a symbol of defiance. The galaxy was wide, dangerous, and full of uncertainty. But Sam understood something he had never realized before. Humanity, ingenuity, and courage were forces just as powerful as any fleet or weapon. With allies, with choices, and with the heart to act, even the smallest individual could shape the stars. And together, he and the dragon would challenge the Empire, one calculated move at a time. They were no longer prisoner and tool. They were allies, free and unbroken, ready to face whatever the galaxy might throw at them. For the first time in centuries, the dragon soared not in chains but in the endless possibilities of the stars. And Sam, the engineer from a quiet colony, was by its side, ready to prove that courage and intelligence could indeed defy the mightiest of powers. The stars stretched before them, infinite and untamed. They had escaped once, and now, together, they would shape the future.